This is The Music Executive, a show where we talk about gig tips, music business strategies, songwriting experiences, collabs, and even more with industry professionals. Let's get into it.
Hey, music executives, Cinnamon Denise here. That's cinnamon like the spice and Denise like Denise. And today we have a special episode. One, you're used to our episodes being extremely short. So this one, I'm telling you now, maybe, 2 minutes longer than the other ones. But regardless, today we have Infinitus, who is a critically acclaimed beatboxing string trio. They're really known for their unique sound and their upbeat performance style. So they are, like I said, a trio. We have Adam, Alex, we have John, Anthony, and Alex.
I was like, "Ooh, who's that? Adam?"
It's okay. No, Adam's coming later. He's just a little behind.
We have a big announcement, people. We have a new member.
Right. Yeah. That's why I'm not the host of the Ellen Show, because I would say the wrong. Anywho, hey, how y'all doing today?
We're good. Thanks for having us. Really excited to be here.
Good. So let's see. Alex, you want to tell us a little bit about the group, how you got started, and what is Infinitus? I mean, I gave a little bit of a story, but I want to hear from you.
Sure thing. As you mentioned before, we are a very unique string trio in what we do by fusing together elements of classical, hip-hop, jazz, Latin, pretty much anything that we kind of like that we can try to make on our instruments and through our mouths and body percussion, we try to do. It wasn't always this way. When we first started, there was no handbook or any type of guide to take us to where we were, because there was nobody in this group or no one in the world that actually does exactly what we do. When you have three people who beatbox and play together, most of the time in an acoustic setting, it poses some very unique challenges. At the time, in getting started, a large part of what we do now is outreach. But when we first started, we were doing a lot of things mainly geared towards senior outreach and fundraising events. And it was at some fundraising events that we met Sal Ferreras, who is a fantastic musician and a connector. He's a guy who is very good at helping to introduce groups to other people who may be able to benefit society in a very special way. And so Sal was instrumental in introducing us on one of his Listen Up festivals, which is kind of a showcase for musicians, to Kevin Bruce, who is our agent. And Kevin approached us after playing at one of these events and said, "Have you guys ever considered doing educational outreach, shows for youth, teaching them what you do?" And while we hadn't done a ton of that sort of thing, we were totally interested in it. We're doing a lot of senior outreach, and it was a good challenge for us to see what would happen if we started broadening our horizons, broadening our scope, so that we were basically hitting all ages from the very young to the young at heart.
Nice. So you started us with finding your agent and all these good things, but how did y'all meet?
Well, I met Anthony in the womb, since we're twins, and and then John, Anthony, and I met in university together.
Okay.
Yeah, we hit it off right away. We're best friends very quickly, although we didn't do a ton of working together until a little bit after our undergraduate studies were completed.
Got you. So let me ask you, John, when you first met Anthony and Alex, what was your first impression of them? What did you really think?
Well, it's a funny story. So we went to the University of Michigan together, Go Blue. And so I met Anthony in the hallway. And it was always this thing about, Michigan, where there was this very long hallway. And so you'd be coming up to someone, and it was always this big thing in the school is how are they going to speak? And if they're not going to speak, I'm not going to speak. Who's going to speak first? So that'll come back in a second. I'll tell you real quick, though. So we had a deal, and me and Anthony ate together, and I had heard about, these amazing players. Alex and Anthony came in mid-year. So I was kind of like a semester, I'd been there a term before they were there. And so I'd heard about these guys, or this guy that had came in that was phenomenal. So Anthony and I ate dinner. We were, hanging out, laughing, just instantly bonded. And then the next day, I saw Anthony walking down the hall with a cello. And I thought, wow, this guy's talented. He's playing the viola and the cello.
Oh, no.
So he's coming down the hall. We're doing that thing. Where like, who's going to speak first, because it's that Michigan thing in the school. And then, I was going to put myself out there. Hey, like my new friend. And Alex kind of gave me this, or who I thought was Anthony, gave me this very kind of shady, like, he was nice. He wasn't mean, but it wasn't like as cool as I thought we were going to be. And I was like, hey, Anthony's really shady. Like yesterday, he was like so cool. Then today, he like acts like he doesn't even know me. Of course, the end of the story. That was not Anthony. That was Alex. And that was the day that I found out that they were twins.
That's funny. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. So let me just double check. There's no Adam in the picture. Where did I pull that name from?
Actually, no, I knew what you were reading. It's Adidam. You see John, Adidam, Little John. So there is, on a way, 3 A's. But Adidam is an acronym for All Day I Dream About Music. And it's sort of become my adulthood middle name, I guess you can call it.
Okay. You see, music executives, they were about to throw me under the bus, but I did not mess it up. I know I didn't just make up this name. I spent so much time talking to you. I'm like, where did I get? Okay, Adi.
No, you got it.
Got it.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
We're just messing with you.
Got it. No, y'all are good. So Anthony, tell me a little bit about how the group really started to develop. And I know we've gotten started many years ago. I don't want to say the number because I'll probably be off target, but tell me about how you all really started getting started and what was the launch pad after you've met Mr. Bruce?
Well, around the time that actually we met Mr. Bruce, we were just doing the corporate gig thing, just trying to get by, as a lot of freelance musicians do. And then I remember we had a call. I think, John, you and I had a call at some point, and we started talking. And then later on, it was probably a week later, you and Alex had a call, and we literally talked about the same thing, saying, man, in a perfect world, wouldn't it be cool to get like paid to play with your friends, like your best friends, and just make your own music? And that's actually how it started. So then, of course, when Kevin Bruce came into the scene, who's a booking agent once again, and he mentioned the possibility of doing a trial tour, and he said, well, why don't we do a small trial tour, see how you guys do? Alex, I believe, called John and said, hey, you know how that we were having that conversation the other day? How do you feel about flying up to Vancouver and we kind of see what happens? And that's actually how it started. And we had to learn by doing very quickly, because obviously all three of us are classically trained, but we also appreciate all different styles of music. And so you start to pick up little things here and there, like going, oh, okay, I really appreciate how jazz musicians can go right off the top. They will just literally find the chord structure and then just start improvising right away. And not necessarily because for us, we were messing up so bad we needed to make something up to just make it through the section. But like, wow, that was really cool. The next, we're doing a show, I think like up in northern BC. I think it was Terrace, BC. John came across this music, said, hey, why don't we do a hip hop mix? And we're playing, and we're like, it's kind of, this thing's kind of whack. I mean, there's nothing to it, it's like, and then we're like, it needs a beat. You can't have hip hop without a beat. And then we started talking, we're like, hey, have you ever beatboxed before? This kind of thing. We're like, well, let's kind of figure it out. And literally in that hotel room, back in January of 2007, we sat in a hotel room going, let's just figure out how to beatbox and play at the same time. And so the next day we're like, we'll just see what happens. It'll be fun. And sure enough, we purposely programmed the hip hop medley, and we drop the beat and we start playing, and the crowd goes nuts. And we were like,
maybe onto something.
Yeah, because at that point we hadn't seen anybody do it. Now, obviously, there's a few people out there right now who do it, but at that point in time, in January 2007, we had, up until that point, I'd never seen anyone do it.
That's right.
With exception to our friend of ours who originally turned us on to that idea, Rodney Page. Shout out to Rod P. So, all the way in Lansing. He and his brother were kind of doing that, like, I think late 90s. And so we were like, oh, let's do it as an entire group and see what happens. And then it stuck. So little by little things happen. And I think for us, it was never really, I would say, we planned on doing this so much as it is. Sometimes the most creative ideas are birthed out of necessity. And you realize that in the moment, you're like, we got to make this work. What do we got? We got a violin, a viola, cello. We got mouths. Lord knows I don't want to lug around a bunch of drum kit gear. No disrespect to the drummers out there. We love you guys, but you guys are expensive and you have heavy gear. So essentially that's a lot of where we picked up some of these things. And then we just kept going in that direction. The sound that you hear is essentially Infinitus, although I will say that it continually evolves. So we're always working on new things, cooking up something else.
So talking about working on new things, cooking up new stuff, what is your process, like the tried and true process for preparing for a show? Is it different every time? What do you do? What does that look like?
It is indeed different. So it's usually when we do it, and feel free, guys, if you want to jump in. We usually look at, again, what is the layout of the performance line going to be? Because we want to make sure that the performance that we give feels tailor-made for an audience. It's important to understand who you're playing for, who is your target audience, just like in any type of business venture. In addition to that, once we start preparing, if we're deciding if there are any new pieces there, then we break up on our own, and we have to make sure we spend our due diligence on our individual instruments before coming together to do group rehearsals. And because of the fact there's so much layering in what we do as a group, it's not enough just to be like, okay, we're lining up our notes, we already know this piece. We're always trying to figure out, is there something we can tweak about the sound? A lot of experimentation, just to say, okay, is this a really great sound that we would be happy to share with the audience? And sometimes we just totally screw around, fooling around in our rehearsals just for fun. And it makes its way on stage. And that makes it more enjoyable for everyone, including ourselves. So when you're touring and you're doing a certain number of performances throughout the year, stuff can get stale. So we are always trying to figure out, is there any little changes we can make to keep things as fresh as possible? I think the other essential thing that we do as a group that has really carried us through all these years is actually flow rehearsals. A lot of times groups will put the actual playing part together, but we also understand that the experience is just as important. So we spend a large amount of time on speaking for each other, to one another, to our imaginary audience before we even walk on stage. We work on transitions.
What'd you call that? You called it flow rehearsal?
We call it a flow rehearsal. How does everything feel? Mm-hmm. Not just with the playing, but with the entire thing as a holistic kind of sense. We want to make sure that from start to finish, that everything feels natural, organic, but also not dead ever. Always including the audience whenever possible. Always feeling like it's moving together in a way that's fun for us and them.
The flow rehearsal I'm glad you brought that up, Alex. I think that is something that we've noticed sometimes even has helped us stand out at showcases. Who's going to speak where? So we finish this song. John stands up and does this. John walks, like that kind of stuff. And when we do it, we don't do it mechanical. Unless it's new, then it can be pretty mechanical. But it's the part of school that we didn't learn. We didn't learn blocking and acting and how to speak to an audience. And so that was the least natural part. The only thing I would add to what Alex said is the process also begins with us arranging and writing our own music. Whereas a lot of groups have maybe a writer or an arranger. We do a lot of originals, or even the way we do covers, as you'll hear in the middle of the show, they're a little bit different. So we never just play just straight a tune. It's always some sort of infinitus flip up of that tune. And all three of us do it. So that is the reason why it takes a long time to record, because also our show is entirely from memory. Even when we do classical music, we did the Beethoven trio cycle. Now they're always all from memory. So that is, for me, I don't know about you guys, but I find for me, the memory of the new stuff is probably the most stressful part of the preparation process. So I would just add those to what Alex was saying.
We always joke to the audiences because they say, wow, you guys, your communication is so amazing. You're always looking at each other and we're like, you can't see our mouths moving. Where are we? Yeah. Tell me when we get to rehearsal B.
Oh, yeah. And we forget to stand up. I forget that what piece comes next until we end and we're all smiling, looking at each other. And then Anthony, John. Oh yes, I was just getting ready to tell you that the next song we're gonna play is, and then we're laughing, and it's a natural moment, but that's very awkward. And we just lean into it.
So speaking of that, who on your team is responsible for what? High level overview.
Okay, so as a basic general thing is that John usually handles probably the majority of our PR. Alex would probably be secondary on the PR. I'm a bit of a 50-50 loose cannon, so it's probably best they put me last unless absolutely necessary. I'm in charge of branding and also kind of starting to look at merch. I sometimes will also handle some of the logistical stuff. And then Alex is like the administrator heavy hitter. He will pretty much cover anything and everything that wasn't just mentioned, plus all the finances. And we thank you for your sacrifice,
Alex. Yeah, Alex probably has the hardest job.
No, we all split things evenly. And that was one of the things from a business standpoint we had to figure out when we first started working together. It was, okay, if we are going to be doing this wearing different hats, do we all need to learn each other's roles as a group? And in the first year or two, we actually did. We all kind of did everybody's role just so we could get an idea of what it entailed. And after about 3-4 years, we were getting comfortable to the point, and also busier to the point where we were saying, you know what, can so-and-so just be the primary on this? And then we just trust each other in these sort of motions. We still meet together with team meetings and just double check on certain things to make sure that everything's in order. And that sort of thing is important. Also, I forgot to mention, John also does the website management. Oh, yeah. Super important. So he also has to handle all that stuff. So thank you, John.
Oh, social media. No, you built the last one. Alex does when we go to eat, he's the one we give the receipts to. Anthony will get the lobster on the steak thing, medium rare, whatever. I'll take the most expensive. I'll be like, I'll take the second most expensive because I'm getting dessert. And then Alex is the one looking at the budget.
I always do deal of the day.
I'll get the deal of the day with water and extra crackers. He keeps us afloat.
One thing I do want to really quick mention to anybody who's listening to this is just remember, if you are definitely a group who's been going for a while or you're just starting, the important thing is, although it is important to know sort of the ropes of how everything runs, everybody is gifted with very unique gifts. And sometimes it'll work against you if you try to force everybody to do the same thing. So just remember, identify what your gifts are and then run with those gifts. Your group will run a lot smoother. Trust me. Finance is not mine. Thank you, Alex. All right.
It's not mine either. It's the short straw I drew.
This is why we're broke.
Oh, that's COVID. Thank you very much. Thanks, man.
So the thing that I've noticed about y'all's shows has really been that one, this process of you really breaking down what's called in performance the fourth wall. So one can eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Anthony, you define the fourth wall, and John, I'd love to hear from you as far as what the steps you take to break that fourth wall.
Okay. So with the fourth wall, the way that we view it, especially in North American culture, you've got the performers up on a stage. And then, of course, you got everybody else, quote unquote, below. And they kind of leave it as this sort of this untouchable thing. And it's kind of no, we want to approach it more from the fact of we're all sharing in the experience together. And the sooner people realize this, they're able to move forward. Because one of the most cliche sayings you'll ever hear is what? Music is the universal language, right? And something, for example, that I always talk to my students about is I don't let them go on that one. I say, tell me, why is it a universal language? And it forces them to think. And finally, we come to the conclusion that music is a universal language because it's a language of emotions. So if you are not connecting on the emotional level with an individual, because it doesn't matter what language they speak. At the end of the day, you may not be able to speak their phonetic language, but if you can meet them, because all of us are human, you can meet them with that emotional language, you just broke that fourth wall. You just breached it, and now we're all together. And that what Alex was talking about before, having this organic thing is there instead of just going, we memorized a bunch of stuff, you're going to listen to it and like it. If not, too bad, you better get a refund because we already collected it and cashed that thing.
So, John, what steps are y'all taking to break that fourth wall?
Probably the most important one is getting to know the context where we're performing, studying it. And we have a heart. One of the sayings we have as a group is that music is about more than applause. So we don't play for accolades. We don't play for awards. We don't play for those things. We really play for the audience that's in front of us. So we played, even before we were Infinitus, we were playing at nursing homes. And I think even at one point, there was a series that Alex and Anthony had set up, and they allowed the residents of that home to name the group. What did the name? It'll be String Ambrosia or something. It was a very elderly.
There was a lot of funny names.
Ambrosia salad was definitely
Unexpected Pleasures. There was a whole bunch of weird things. It got into really weird territory there.
It became a little adult with some of the names. We're like, wow.
Unexpected Pleasures was definitely our favorite.
String XXX.
Yeah, so as you can see, there is zero fourth wall in this interview, so you're literally witnessing it firsthand. So that's probably the biggest thing. And then so there's that blues quote about, the blues is not about people knowing who you are, it's about you knowing the people. And we feel that way with whether we're playing for kids, for nursing home, wherever we are, it's people. And people feel and they come to have a good time and they come to connect. And so they almost expect, because of our classical instruments, they expect for us to be very formal. So when we start talking to them, first of all, they're hearing our voice, they're getting to know us and the music that's around us. And then we're playing some things that they can kind of recognize, or even in some parts of the show, allowing them to submit requests. We pull them out of a basket and play it. And so that really, it does two things. It does make for a dialogue instead of just a one-way conversation, so you feel like the concert is a bit of a dialogue, but also we are always new, even though we've been around for a long time, because we're so busy doing the shows and touring. Almost every audience that hears us is hearing us for the first time. And no one else in the world does what we do. Acoustic beatboxing string trio that's not just playing covers, like what we play is at a very high technical level. So we always have the responsibility in the show to introduce the audience to what we do, to give them an expectation so they can learn how to react and enjoy it and get the most out of the show without having to wait for the second show. Hopefully that explains it.
No, it does.
I was just going to say, I think one of the things that I always like in the introduction is that John is always just letting the audience know it's really more like hanging out together. And I think that kind of sums it up when you're meeting with people, when you're interacting, like Anthony was saying about the emotions and all this stuff. As soon as you make that connection, it's really that we're all just kind of hanging out together. Yes, we are the people who are kind of leading everyone on this kind of journey, but I think that's part of the thing. It's not a concert, it's an experience, right? So that's what we're aiming to create when we go on stage.
Thank you so much, y'all. So the episode's not over, but we're going to take a little brief intermission because we're talking so much about this amazing group, Infinitus. But let's hear them play. And this tune you're about to hear is Bumblebee, arranged by John Adidam Little John, not Adam. And, and we'll be back in just a few moments. Yes, so we love the sound of Infinitus, and that was an amazing rendition of Bumblebee, again, arranged by John Adidam Little John, which is a cool name. You got two first names there. Okay, so so the first half of the show, we talked about the fourth wall. We talked about a little bit of the background of Infinitus. Let's talk a little bit about touring best practices. Y'all have been so many places, done so many shows. What have you found works and does not work when you're touring? Can be anything that you've just come across.
I'd have to say, if you guys mind if I jump in on this one?
No, go for it.
Yeah, please.
First of all, overpacking and underpacking both have their dangers. Overpacking because it inevitably, let's say I overpack, you better believe that John and Alex are going to have to help carry that. Underpack, we're going to have to stop a lot and be like, guys, find Walmart or the equivalent of Walmart and wherever we are touring as fast as we can because I don't have enough to make it through this week. That's one of those ones that, believe it or not, you start to figure out what are the essentials very quickly. And then okay, those are the things I gotta go. And then oftentimes we do look out after each other as well. It also really helps for anybody who's touring to remember. For example, let's bring some extra vitamin C for everybody to take in case, make sure that our immune systems are strong. Because you're traveling, you never know what you're being exposed to. This sort of thing comes in really handy.
Now, Anthony actually has a buffer. Since we're identical twins, we're pretty much exactly the same in body type and everything. So I tend to think Anthony sometimes underpacks, and then many times through touring, Anthony's like, "Oh shoot, I don't have blah 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 blah." So I'm like, "Oh, I have this sigh because I quote overpack so that I can prepare just in case Anthony underpacks, so I can give him an extra spare something or other, spare pair of pants, spare shirt, spare whatever." But it works. It can go both ways. Anthony's helped me out too. Obviously, I'm giving Anthony a hard time on here. So
yes, I have.
Now I was thinking, okay, so if we do personality. Like Anthony's going to try to do Egypt in a backpack. He's going to try to flip-flops the backpack. And they get there and be like, it's cold. Be like, we told you to wear shoes. I'm definitely like packing because I'm always in school doing, I'm in seminary at the same time. So I'm usually having a bunch of books and everything in my suitcase is super heavy. I'll probably have the most stuff. I'm probably the overpacker. And Alex is our dealer. He's always the one that brings the vitamin C, the melatonin. So we're always lining up with jet lag at his door at night. Like, Alex, give us the melatonin
for the low price of.
Yes,
It's a good thing you made me the finance guy because.
Yeah, exactly. This first one's free, but it's going to cost you.
Yes, the packing is always a big thing. It's in anything with our touring. All of us make sure we study the itinerary because any business or, say, military individual, they would have to know the lay of the land before they head out there. Mm-hmm. We have to know who we're playing for, the target audience. We have to know where we're going. We have to know kind of a little bit more of the cultural background, too. So being in the group where we are, it forces us in a good way to really learn as much about the kind of microcosm of society that we're about to walk into. As John was mentioning, we do allow in many of our shows audiences to make song requests. And so it's our job as well to kind of learn a little bit about the area we're going to, because if we're going to an area where everybody there only listens to country, we have to kind of step up our game and say, okay, well, what were the local radio stations playing in that area if we don't have a lot of background in country? Or does this part of the world listen to the same things that maybe people in Vancouver would listen to, or that sort of thing? And we find it's really helps us to best prepare mentally so that we can come in culturally aware of what's going on in the general public's eye. The other thing, actually, now that I think about it, if you guys are okay, I'm just going to go back to that whole packing thing. In addition to packing, whether you pack light or heavy, depending on the tour, we always, I think, have to have a mental backup plan. Just because when you travel, things get lost. And we've had instances where we've been without luggage. We've been in an instance where I've been without my cello multiple times, and it can be a real problem. But we just have to roll with it and figure out what to do,
Without your cello?
Yeah, well, usually that involves me being very stressed out, pulling out whatever hair I have on my head and just saying, when is the cello going to be on there? Have you found it? Can it be on the next flight, please? And how about now? That sort of thing. So
that is a tough one because sometimes we land and the airport is like 3 hours from where we're playing. And so, when you don't have that, you're waiting and you're trying to figure out all those little logistics. I'll add one more thing to best touring practices is knowing when not forgetting that you're there to perform. So sometimes the tourism part can get in the way, and you do want to take in, especially we've played in so many cool places that we just want to take in the local culture, but staying out all night, eating new foods that your body might not like before a performance, not getting good temperature, just so many different things. Instruments, northern British Columbia can be extremely dry. There was a concert where my violin, like a part just snapped off right before the show because the weather was so different and we had to find a new instrument. So that's something I would definitely say is something that we've learned the hard way, is just not to forget that we are there to play a concert, that we're not there to be tourists, and sometimes having to sort of forego until after the performance some of the local adventurous spots and eateries and stuff like that.
Do you all have any funny anecdotes or stories from your touring?
Yes, we do. It's. I'm glad you asked.
And I'm like, which ones can we tell publicly?
I know, but the thing is, what would be safe to tell on this podcast? For me, sometimes it's just the really small things that crack me up. Because we play for such a wide variety of ages, again, young to old, you just get so many funny things that happen because of the generations spanning one another in the shows. But I always, a lot of times, go back to our education shows with the kids because they just say funny things. We have things built into our education shows so that there is questions and answers in addition to song requests. And I remember right when we were starting out, I think it was within the first year or so, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, we were all excited to answer these kids' questions because they had their hands up. Me. It's like, okay, how about you right there in the front? I think John called on this kid, and this kid stood up, and he looked like he was about to cry, and he was like, why are you guys spitting on us? And it took us a moment to realize he was talking about the beatboxing. So we were like, we didn't realize we were spitting on you. Sorry.
I think one of the ones that I think of is it was a crazy group of performances. We played at an abbey in Oregon. Was it in Oregon?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it was in Oregon.
It was in Oregon.
And it was very cool. But we were at an old abbey, monks, and they had this summer concert series that we did. And I also moved the day before we played at the Abbey. I think I was like moving the day before, and we had a wedding on Vancouver Island. Like it was all squished together. And we rented this car from this. We tried to support a local business, and they gave us a lemon, and it broke down. We made it there, and so the monk, one of the monks, drove us like 10 hours or something. Like it was far, like back to Vancouver, and then we got back. We ran off, did the wedding, and for the wedding, I forgot to pack my clothes, and so I'm wearing this. Just wear suits for this wedding. I have this like yellow t-shirt, bright yellow, turned inside out so it can look plain. And I think, was that the wedding, Anthony, where you also ruined the surprise?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Completely ruined the surprise. The exact same wedding. I didn't realize that the song that we had prepared was a surprise song that the bride had asked us to play for the groom. And of course, I walk right up to the groom. Hey, just want to go through the rundown with you. Does this look right? Yeah. And about when we play this song, what song? This one right here. What? I mean, that song that would possibly work there. I'm like, oh God, there's no way to get through this. We're so screwed.
We were freaking out for the concert. We were trying some new music, so we're praying in the back. We're all praying. And the priest comes in and is like, I heard them praying for everybody. Now I'm like, if you were there 30 seconds earlier, you would have heard the prayer, been like, Lord Jesus, we don't know these folks. God, please help us pull this concert together.
Oh,
this concert's full. They already bought our CDs. Oh, God. So it was just between the bunks. We love Lord of the Rings. So his name was Father Odo. So his name was Frodo. And him driving us back and just the whole thing. It was just like such a crazy 3 days. We don't do weddings anymore. Maybe that's why.
I mean, there's so many good stories. If I got one, I'll make it really quick. We're at a nursing home one time, and we're like, because like, once again, it doesn't matter where. You can see this one coming. It doesn't matter who we're playing for. If it's one person or if it's 1,000 people, we're gonna give our best, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. We want everyone to have a good time. Well, apparently, one person decided they were not having a good time. So we've been in nursing homes where literally a person is literally heckling, and they're like, keep practicing. And they're like shouting these horrendous things. And at one point, we decided to play this beautiful, slow tune. And we start playing it. This lady in the back with her walker goes, I can't take it anymore. And grabs her, she's in the back row, grabs her walker and goes, plunk. By the time she got to the front, we ended the concert. The poor lady had to suffer through the rest of our playing.
We have nothing against the geriatric population whatsoever. It just was so funny because she was so slow and yet so vocal in her dislike for what we were playing that it was. Oh.
I thought you were going to say about the lady who every time you talk, she says, yeah. It doesn't matter what you say. So if you say, we're going to play this beautiful piece by Mozart. Yeah. It's 3 movements. Yeah. Like she did that over and over again. But it keeps it real, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I miss her. I miss the yeah lady.
Heckling is sometimes a part of the shows, so you just get used to it. Oh, there was one time that we were performing in Suzhou in China. And for that one, they said, can you make sure that, everything is to a T for the program? Because we have a lot of important officials who really want to see what you're doing and all that. So we start playing. We're feeling really good, and the crowd's really liking what we're doing. And we forgot that there was one thing on the program that we were supposed to perform. We didn't. And so we were just like, oh, it'll be fine. We'll just call on anyone in the audience for the question and answer period. And we called on this very cute little girl near the back. And we just figured she would ask us, how long have you been playing together? Or, sometimes kids will ask, how old are you? Something that you thought was cute. And first thing she does, super busy, like, why'd you guys miss that piece? And we're like, what? Like, why'd you skip that piece? We're like, oh, it's because we forgot. So we had to laugh that one off, which, again, that's part of the banter. And so that helps because we can kind of laugh at our own mistakes because we just literally just forgot to play one piece. It was very funny.
Not out of character. Because it's not going to be out of pocket in that context, like you talking to each other, having more banter. I get it. Kids will do that to you. They'll put you on the spot.
Always. And the part of that made that scary was that the Chinese government has to okay your program. And we tried to omit that piece from the program, and they said no. They actually had to ask, like the Chinese government, can they take that piece out? And they said, no, we want you to play what you said you were going to play. And then we forgot to play it.
Yeah, I went
And
right
it was
on.
the
went
one
into
piece the
autopilot.
girl was like, why didn't you play that piece? And I was like, wow, y'all really want what's on that program.
Yeah.
You don't even know the piece. We made it up.
I composed that last week.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has been so much fun. I feel like I'm part of the group now. So
Yes.
Yay! Welcome.
Thank you so much. Is there anything you wanted to add? Where can the audience find you? Where can they follow you? What are you working on now? What's the latest?
So if you put together the words Infinitus in music, you can find us anywhere. That is our website. That is all of our social media, and follow us. Like, we're all over the place. We take string instruments into any place, and we are always us, and it's always real. Check out our music. You know, if you like it, share it with somebody. And we have lots of new things cooking. You know, the pandemic has sort of, you know, put a hamper on some of those things, but you know, you will be hearing some new music and possibly seeing some new videos from us soon. And we are deep into education, so we're actually busy planning a summer camp that we run called the Thrive City String Boot Camp. And it's a tuition-free camp for string players. So we're in the middle of planning how to do that online, and very excited about how we'll be able to roll that out this summer. So if you like what we're doing when you see us and you want to come study with us, this camp, we have different levels classes, but from beginners all the way through pre-professionals. So that's how you can keep in touch with us.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add to that?
No? Thank you for having us on the show, Cinnamon.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Cinnamon.
Yes. Thank you so much.
This is so much fun. Thank you.
Yes. Well, music executives, that's Infinitus, and they are just as exciting to listen to as they are to watch. So if you haven't checked out their YouTube channel yet, they didn't mention it, but if you haven't checked it out yet, go check it out and follow them anywhere you can find music executives. I'll catch you on the next episode.
Don't forget to leave a rating of the show. It helps to make us better. Thanks so much. Y'all take care.